Welcome back, everyone. I'm Yvonne Davis, author and astrologer, and this is my channel where I do general astrology and political astrology. So, as many of you know, I've been having trouble with my equipment during this Mercury retrograde, particularly the audio. So, I'm going to try again and see if I can get this to record. I wasn't able to sort it out in time to redo the video for the 24th and Mueller's testimony, but that's past due now, and we all know how that turned out. And if you're like me, you may be feeling a little disappointed because it was not as overall powerful and compelling as many of us had hoped it would be, and definitive. It wasn't a complete disaster, but it was also not a complete victory. So we're still left in the same place we were before. So you may be wondering, well, what next? And I really felt it was important to try to do another video to show you the chart so you don't feel discouraged, because I think this there's definitely hope in the chart. So let's go ahead and look at that. I'm going to pull that up right now, and I want to show you 5 charts. So I'm going to try to go through this fairly quickly. Now, what we want to look at are the eclipses, because eclipses are karmic, and there's an unfolding story. They're different than normal new moons and full moons that bring something new, and for the new moons, and then bring something to fruition, culmination, or ending for the full moon, because the kinds of things that they're bringing are more long-term and karmic. So they're launching a longer-term story. And I think that's why we didn't get definitive news with the full moon eclipse that I thought we would, because of the fact that the time span is much longer. We need to go forward to the next set of eclipses to see how the story unfolds. So I want to take you back to the new moon eclipse of July 2nd. It was right over Donald Trump's Mercury, which is all about communication, in the 12th house of things that are hidden and secret. And as I've said in the past, his natural square to Neptune in the 3rd house is what makes him a pathological liar. So, so that issue is being activated by this new moon eclipse. And then there's this opposition to Pluto, Saturn, and the South Node on the other side. You can also see Neptune, transiting Neptune, is squaring his natal Sun North Node conjunction and Moon South Node conjunction. So we see 2 T-squares forming, one with the natal Neptune and one with the transiting Neptune. So these are the issues that are being brought to the fore in a very karmic way with this new moon eclipse. Okay, now I'm going to take you forward into December. And, you know, obviously things are going to happen between now and December, but I don't foresee him being out of office. And I'll try to explain why. But let me just go to this chart here with the full moon on December 12th. And it's right over his Sun North Node conjunction and his Moon South Node conjunction. That full moon is right over that. We've still got this opposition here of Pluto and Saturn, but now we've got Venus in the mix at 20 degrees over his vertex. I think that's going to be a female opposing him, or multiple females opposing him, or it could just represent the law, because Venus rules Libra, which are represented by the scales of justice. And that's in opposition to his natal Venus-Saturn conjunction. But the most important thing to see here is that the North Node is conjunct his Mercury now. So it's bringing it, it's like it's bringing the story fruition. So I think the second set of eclipses are actually going to be more important. Now, a full moon can bring endings. Like I said, it's a culmination, it's a fruition, it's an ending. And, some people might say, well, that's an end to these investigations. That's the end to the debate about impeachment. But I don't believe that's an ending to that, because if it were, we wouldn't still be seeing this massive opposition over here. So, yeah, because the opposition is not going away, not by a long shot. So I think the most important thing we want to look at is the North Node has now moved into position where the new moon eclipse was, and it's conjunct his Mercury. So it's activating that point, that karmic point in his chart. Okay, now I'm going to take you to the next set of eclipses being December 25th and 26th, depending on where you are in your time zone. So here we see again the North Node right over his Mercury, and it's conjunct the midheaven. The midheaven is what makes things public, so that's really interesting that the midheaven is conjunct the North Node and Mercury now, something being made public. And the on the other side is the new moon conjunct Jupiter, but it's forming that T-square to his natal Neptune. So there's something really karmic going on there. And this is what I call the rack of doom, when you see the red X between two quincunxes. So the quincunx is the blue line, that's a karmic readjustment. You see the two blue lines, and then you see the red opposition crossing in between the two blue lines. That's called the rack of doom. And it's also still got the T-square of the transnatal Neptune on his sun and moon. So this again is bringing back that karmic lesson that's unfolding that has to do with his way of communicating in the world. And now I'm going to take you to the January full moon eclipse. This is what really brings it to a 4. So as I was saying, I still expect impeachment. I still expect some formal impeachment process, which would start with the impeachment investigation. And they have not moved into formal impeachment investigations yet, but that's how it would start. And then they do take a vote and they write up articles of impeachment, assuming that they get enough votes. They write up articles of impeachment. Then there's a trial in the Senate, and that takes about 5 months. And at the end of that, then Congress votes on whether or not to remove him from office. Now, what I was saying before is, regardless of impeachment, I do not believe he will be removed from office in this term. And the reason I say that is because no president has ever been removed from office through impeachment. There is no precedent for it in our American history. There are only 2 presidents who have ever been impeached. One was Andrew Johnson, and he was not only impeached, he went through the trial, but he was saved by 1 vote. So even he was not removed from office. He's considered one of the worst presidents in our history. The second president to be impeached was Clinton, and again, he was impeached, he was tried, but he was not removed from office. Now, some people think that Nixon was impeached, and I would say that he was, because they voted to impeach him and they brought articles of impeachment, but then he resigned, so he never went through the trial. And then Gerald Ford, who became president because he resigned, pardoned Nixon. So that never went anywhere. Okay, so historians don't consider that to be impeachment because he resigned and then he was pardoned. So those are the only three in history that come anywhere close to this impeachment process, and none of them were removed from office. So it would be an extremely unusual precedent for Donald Trump to actually be removed from office through the impeachment process, and that's extremely unlikely because he has to be tried in the Senate, and the Senate is controlled by Republicans. So it's, even if they impeach, he's the chances of him being removed are almost nil. So I think we have to just keep looking ahead to the next election. And now I want you to see here in this full moon eclipse, it's at 20 degrees. So we have the sun and Mercury here at 20 degrees. And as I pointed out earlier, we had Venus at 20 degrees, and at some point we had Saturn at 20 degrees. So the 20, 21, and 22 degrees are the most important. And it's right over his vertex, and it's opposing his natal Saturn and Venus in the 12th house of secrets. Now, full moons tend to illuminate things, and this is a very karmic full moon, and the North Node is right over his Mercury, and Saturn and Pluto are moving into a conjunction. So there are about 5 days from January 10th to January 14th when all of these planets are going to be stacking up at 20 to 22 degrees. So I think it's really going to bring things to a head at this point, and that's why I still think we are moving toward impeachment. Something is going to manifest with these alignments. Impeachment seems like the most logical manifestation of these alignments. So that's why I'm still standing by that prediction. It could possibly manifest in some other way, but the most important thing to understand here is this is an opposition, okay? I mean, look at those red lines. They're just glaring there. This is not, friendly territory. This is massive opposition, and it's a full moon eclipse with the North Node of Mercury. It just, what else could it be? It screams impeachment to me. But if it's not impeachment, then it's something very close to it. It's a massive, massive opposition, and Donald Trump is at the center of it. It's really got to be about Donald Trump. I don't think it could be about anything else. So there's that, and then there's one more thing I want to show you in this series, which is I want to talk about Mars, because I've mentioned that Mars is a timing trigger. It's a very accurate timing trigger. So after we've looked at all of these alignments and that 20 degree point, you can see now Mars has moved into that 20 degree point, and that happens in March. So, which is interesting because it also coincides with the time of the primaries for the Democratic Party. And who knows, there may even be a primary for the Republican Party. But because Bill Weld has said that he will run against Donald Trump, I don't know if he'll be successful in that, but there's clearly some opposition even inside the Republican Party. So once Mars moves into that point, that's gonna trigger things as well. So we want to look forward to that. That first degree is on March 16th, and then it will move through the 20th degree of Capricorn, and then onto the 22 degree, where we had the Pluto-Saturn conjunction. So this is really important to keep in mind, this timing. The other interesting thing about it is that it begins to form a yod, a boomerang yod. And a boomerang yod is when you see a quincunx and another quincunx, and then the opposition going straight through. These two quincunxes form a V shape, and then the opposition goes straight through. And the boomerang yod is often called the finger of God. It's like inescapable karma. And if you want to know how this can manifest in a person's life, go back and look at my video on Manafort. And I showed you how he had a boomerang yod in his chart. And we all know what ended up happening to Paul Manafort. I believe he's in jail now, so he's going to be in jail for a long time. So, and I don't think all of his court cases are even resolved yet, so he may get more time added to that. So, not a pretty picture when you're at that age. You have to go to jail. So that is, yeah, that's some pretty intense karma there, and that that yod actually becomes more intense over time as you move into 2020. And then the other interesting thing about Mars is that when Mars gets up here to the 9th house on September 9th, 2020, Mars will go retrograde in Aries, which is Donald Trump's 9th house. And keep in mind, Capricorn rules government, but the third and 9th house axis rule elections. So the fact that Mars will be going retrograde in the 9th house is not good for Donald Trump. And it'll be really interesting when we find out who is actually going to be the Democratic candidate, because then I can look at their charts. Because I keep seeing indications that a woman may win the election. But because Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders are still in the lead for the Democratic Party, I'm hesitant to start making predictions. I want to wait until I find out who actually wins that nomination. If it's a woman, I think Donald Trump is going to have some serious competition. I keep seeing indicators that a woman is going to win the next election. So, well, I guess we'll have to just be a little bit patient with that, because, I don't want to, I'm not going to make a definitive prediction about whether or not Donald Trump is going to win or not win the election, because I see favorable aspects and unfavorable aspects. And because I didn't believe he would win last time and I was wrong, I want to be very, very careful this time and not take anything for granted. But I do see indications that it's not a given that he will win either. It's not a given he will lose, but it's not a given he will win. So, so I just keep watching this formation here. Something very karmic is unfolding, and we still have a year and a half. Well, a year and 3 months until the election. So a lot can happen between now and then. All right, I'm going to bring this to an end now. So, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. If you like this video, click like, share with your friends and family, ring the bell for notifications. And yes, leave your comments. I love your comments, and I read all of them, and I try to respond to all of them. So thank you so much, and I hope this video was helpful. And I will be back again soon and show you more charts in 2020. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.